Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Before we meet today's guests, we do want to give a shout out to our partners, We Coach, the Florida Coaches Coalition, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, and the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. You've heard me say many times, these are four great organizations. You need to add them to your network. And now, don't hit that fast forward button. Stay with us for about 3 minutes. Listen to our sponsorship shout outs. These are all great companies I used as an AED or as a coach. You should be using them too. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Home Campus for their support. Home Campus is the official exclusive high school and state association platform for the Educational AD Podcast. It's also your one-stop platform for scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance, and a whole lot more. As an athletic director, I used Home Campus every single day, and it was just great. And the Home Campus team was great to work with too. To find out more, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. We also want to say thanks to Snap Mobile. Go to snapraise.com and you'll find an entire suite of platforms designed to help you do your job better. Snap Raise is the fundraising platform, but there's so much more. Go to snapraise.com. Check them out. We also want to thank Gipper. Gipper's the official social media graphics solution for the podcast. And if you go to Gipper.com, their team is going to help you create professional-looking graphics in seconds that will help you celebrate your athletes, your teams, and your program. It's professional-grade quality made simple. Mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. That's Gipper.com. We also want to thank Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided to help our athletes play at the highest level. At Huddle, we believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thank you to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo and see their tables and their boards in action. It's probably one of the best purchases I ever made. That's sidelineinteractive.com. Make sure you check them out today. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. They're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. Their technology will help you transform school tributes and make it easier than ever to celebrate your whole community by showcasing your school's diverse history, your proudest moments, and your top role models. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention the podcast. You'll get a nice discount. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. They'll show you how to sell your tickets, collect your revenue, and every step of the way, you'll have a dedicated client success manager that's providing you hands-on support. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com right now. Simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to thank District 1. Go to District 1, that's WON, and you're going to feel like you've won when you see their custom uniforms, their on-time delivery, 20 business days or less, and their one-at-a-time replacement policy. You'll never have to order a full set when you just need one or two replacements. Go to district1.com. Click the Team Gear button. You'll get your quote right away. That's district1.com. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you're not using a survey, you're really missing out. ADs usually just hear back from the complainers, the gripers, and that's only about 2%. Athletic surveys will connect you with that 2%, but they'll also connect you with the 98% that love and support your program. And that allows you to take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Check them out today. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is Jackie Kisthardt. She is the Assistant Director of Athletics at Chatham Hall, and that's in Chatham, Virginia. We're recording this on June 19th, so it's going to be pretty timely by the time you listen to it. It's summer vacation. I think most ADs, including Jackie, are experiencing some well-deserved vacation time. But Jackie Kisthardt, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, excited to hear you share how things are going in your state. You and I were talking before we started recording. We connected on LinkedIn, saw your profile, thought you'd be a really good guest. So here we are. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. Maybe take us up through your own high school and college experience. And then we'll take a break. And when we come back from that break, we'll hear about your early career. But what's the Jackie Kisthardt story?
Great. Yeah. So I grew up, I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and that's where I am happily spending my summer months. And from as long as I can remember, I was playing sports. I started with soccer, like most young kids do, and then soccer grew into basketball. And then in middle school, around fourth grade, I picked up lacrosse and I just fell in love with it and ultimately settled on field hockey and lacrosse in middle school and high school. I played for Hudson High School, which is one of the top teams in Ohio for both field hockey and lacrosse. Ultimately, I ended up being recruited to play Division I lacrosse at Kennesaw State University in Georgia. So that was my first little experience getting to go south from Ohio. And I loved playing lacrosse, and it was such a good opportunity, and ultimately ended up stepping away about a year and a half once I was in college. And that's where I first started to get some experience with coaching, and ultimately knew that with majoring in sports management that I had a few routes I could take, and the route I decided on was athletic administration.
Well, we've had a number of guests on the show over the 3 years we've done this. I want to say you might be the first girls lacrosse or women's lacrosse, excuse me, player we had. What was your position? They didn't have lacrosse when I was in high school 100 years ago, but I think I would have loved it. Running around and hitting people with a stick. What was your position?
So I was a midfielder, so I was all over the field. I was scoring goals, but then also playing defense. And then once I got into college, I focused more on attack, which was really fun and went up against some really good competition. And also on the other end in field hockey, I was a goalie, which is not typical for a field player in lacrosse. So I was the one stopping the goals in field hockey.
Now, I'm not that familiar with field hockey. I know in lacrosse that ball is really flying. Is it similar in field hockey?
Not at all. It is a very hard rubber ball that you do not want to get in the way of. Lots of equipment for field hockey goalies.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. Um, I always ask this question again, you participated in multiple sports in high school. You were a college athlete, had some coaching background. As an athletic director, can you look back on those days as a high school or college athlete and see some lessons learned at the time you didn't understand or realize that this was going to be important later on? Anything come to mind as I put you on the spot now?
I just think from being an athlete, you just learn time management and that completely relates to being an athletic administrator. You have to have time management because you have to expect the unexpected as an athletic administrator, and sports have just prepared me to do that.
You talked about, you got some coaching experience at the college level, when you were a college student, and that kind of lit that fire. Um, as you were finishing your degree, any courses or any classroom experiences, lab experiences, internships, stick out as far as really having an impact, saying, boy, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, so actually, one unique feature of the sports management program at Kennesaw State is your last semester is a full-time internship. So you're in any coursework. It's just work experience. And I was actually able to graduate early from Kennesaw State. So I was only at Kennesaw for 3 years. So what would have been my senior year, I was working at a boarding school here in Ohio. And that is where I truly fell in love with athletic administration and knew that this was something I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Now, the boarding school experience is different for those who have not been involved in that. What were some of your takeaways from that component of the internship?
It is truly a 24/7 lifestyle. You have to buy into the boarding school lifestyle, and I have loved every second of it. You're really able to make a different relationship with the kids, especially being an athletic administrator. You're seeing them on the field, but then I'm going home and I'm living on a dorm with freshman girls who have never lived away from home. So it's just a really unique experience, and you just get to see a different side of the kids. And I definitely can't see myself at any other type of school.
That's cool to hear. That's again, that's not always the response you get as people recall their boarding school experiences as a teacher, but that's great for you. For our listeners, our guest today is Jackie Kisthardt. She is currently the assistant athletic director at Chatham Hall, and that's in Chatham, Virginia. We're going to take our first break, but we're coming back with some more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Home Campus for their support of the podcast. Home Campus is the exclusive high school and state association platform for the Educational AD Podcast. It's also your one-stop platform for things like scheduling, athlete eligibility and clearance, association connections, and a whole lot more. As an athletic director, I used Home Campus every single day, and it was just fantastic. And the Home Campus people were fantastic too. To find out more, all you need to do is go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. Check them out after you get done listening to the podcast. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Gipper is the official social media graphics solution for the podcast. And if you go to Gipper.com, their pros are going to help you start creating custom sports graphics for your school in seconds. Celebrate your teams, promote your athletes and your program. Gipper's used by over 3,000 athletic programs, and you can start creating professional, custom social media graphics for your school after you sign up with Gipper. Mention the podcast, you'll get a nice little discount. That's Gipper.com.
So we actually use Gipper here at Chatham Hall, and it has made my life significantly easier. I handle a bulk of our social media at Chatham, and they are just constantly evolving and making their platform better. And I can't recommend it enough.
Well, boy, thanks so much for sharing that. I know our folks at Gipper are going to appreciate that. And you're absolutely right. For an old dinosaur AD like me, I can't believe how easy it was to use the platform. Very cool. Thanks for sharing. For our guests or for our listeners, our guest is Jackie Kisthardt. She's the assistant AD at Chatham Hall in Virginia. Jackie, you kind of took us up through your college undergrad program. All right, you're out there, you're in the job market. What were some of those early jobs after college?
So actually, after college, I got to start right away at Western Reserve Academy in Hudson, Ohio, which is a boarding school, like I mentioned earlier. And I was just their intern, essentially mainly for the athletic department, but also for any other school needs as well. And that really allowed me to get my feet wet with athletic administration, but also boarding schools and private schools as a whole. While I was at Western Reserve Academy, I knew I wanted to get my master's. I just wasn't sure what route I wanted to take. And I saw that the Ohio University Master's was available online and would also allow me to continue getting work experience at Western Reserve Academy. So I started that. I graduated undergrad December of 2018. I think 3 weeks later, I started my master's. And I was one of the youngest in the program. And that really just solidified for me that I knew this was what I wanted to do, athletic administration. And I knew when my time at Western Reserve Academy ended that I would be looking for an athletic operations assistant AD type of position. And ultimately, after reserve, I ended up in Miami, Florida. So a bit of a climate change from Cleveland, Ohio. And I was working at Ransom Everglades School, which is a day school in Miami. And I feel like that was my first real experience working in an athletic department, strictly in athletics. And I was exposed to so much at Ransom, top school, top athletics, really good athletes. And I learned a lot from the entire athletic department at Ransom Everglades. And I also had the opportunity my second year there to teach middle school physical education. So that was a lot of fun, just another learning experience for me. But I felt that I was missing boarding school life, and I was glad I got the day school experience, but I just felt an itch to go back to boarding schools. So last spring, so spring of 2022, I started looking for assistant athletic director positions, and I last minute came across the position at Chatham Hall. And once I stepped on campus and I just felt the community feeling that boarding schools have, I knew that this was a school I wanted to go to. And here I am now as the assistant director of athletics at Chatham Hall. I just finished my first year. And I also get to coach field hockey and lacrosse. And I live on dorm with 10th through 12th graders. So that's been super exciting. And now just looking forward to my second year at Chatham Hall.
Well, I did a little LinkedIn stalking as we were preparing for this interview, and I saw the Ransom Everglades um, back in 2008 through 2014. I was the athletic director at Palmer Trinity School,
Yes.
so I know
Oh,
Ransom very well. Still some good friends there. In fact, I'm going to throw a name at you, Deb Savino.
Deb's a great, awesome person. She was a great mentor for me. She's the middle school assistant athletic director. So when I was teaching at the middle school, I started my mornings at the middle school and then would drive over to the upper school. So I started every single morning with Deb, and I miss her a lot.
Deb and I weren't there at the same time. I had already gone on to another school, but Deb was a guest the very first season of the podcast. I actually helped her with her CMAA credential. I was on certification committee back then, and we are still in touch probably once a week. We'll talk with each other. So again, small world there, small world. Also, you mentioned the Ohio University program. Kelly Walton and Aaron Wright, both former guests of the podcast. And again, we love promoting. One of my former employees graduated, I think maybe a year ago from the Ohio program. So all sorts of connections there. Um, let's talk about Chatham Hall. You mentioned you've been there for a year, and you kind of did your research. You wanted to go there. Now that you've been there, what was something that you didn't know going in, but now you're saying, wow, I'm definitely at the right place?
That's a great question. And honestly, my answer doesn't even have anything to do with athletics, but it's it really is just all about the kids and the relationships that I've been able to have with them. Um, Most boarding schools, well, at least Chatham Hall in particular, we partner with Assist, which is international students that come to the school for 1 year. They're only allowed to come for 1 year, and then they go back to their home country. Um, and we had 5 amazing students from Assist. And when we had to take them back to the airport to go home, me and one of my colleagues drove them to the Raleigh Durham airport, and all 5 Assist students were there with us. And it just reminded me why I do what I do. And ironically, they all were great athletes, so that helps. I got to form that relationship with them as well. But it's the relationships that you are able to have. And I think at boarding schools, they're just intense relationships because you're living with them. But you really do get that at all schools. So it really was just the relationships and the community for me that really solidified the decision for me to come back.
Yeah, that's so cool to hear. You find that school and you just know, this is where I'm supposed to be. Very, very cool stuff. I don't know about living with the sophomores though. I don't know if I'm ready for that, but for you, it's probably great. Okay. For our listeners, we're visiting today with Jackie Kisthardt. She is the Assistant Director of Athletics at Chatham Hall, and that's in Chatham, Virginia. We're going to take another break, but we're coming back with some more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our friends at Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches for all the sports just loved the tools that Huddle provided that allowed them to coach our kids at the highest level. Go to huddle.com and find out why we believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thank you to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and check out their great products. They have a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. And the Wall of Fame is actually an interactive touchscreen video console. It's a great way to display your school record boards for all the teams, all the events, for all the sports, as well as your school's Hall of Fame. Go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Once you're ready to make your purchase, mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. Celebrate your school's diverse history, your proudest moments, and your top role models, and go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Jackie, one of the favorite moments of our podcast interviews is when the guests get to share some of the mentors that have impacted their life and their career. None of us get to where we're at on our own. So who are some of the people that have helped you along the way?
I think if I have to go as far back as the first, it would be my middle school athletic director, who was Jeff Kurtz. And we had a really good relationship when I was in middle school. And he didn't coach any of my sports, but I know he coached a few sports. And I feel like that was my first idea of, oh, this is something that maybe you can do as a career. And then when it comes to coaching, I have to shout out all of my field hockey coaches from high school. Coach Knox, Coach Haney, they are the reason I am the coach that I am today. I go back every summer. That's what I'm doing here in Ohio this summer, is coaching camps and clinics with the same field hockey staff that I got to play under. And then lastly, just all the athletic departments and athletic directors, assistant athletic directors, administrative assistants that I've worked with at Western Reserve Academy and Ransom Everglades. I have been able to just learn and grow and blossom under them, and have taken everything that I can during my time with them.
As you're going through that list, coaches that you've had, people that you've worked with, I think a lot of times we don't understand at the moment when a mentoring experience is happening, but later on, there's that aha moment. Can you share one or two of those moments that at the time you didn't really understand? Maybe you didn't even like it, but it turned out to be a mentoring experience.
Definitely. So my senior year of high school, I loved field hockey so much, but lacrosse was always my number one. But when I was in field hockey season was my priority. And there was a clinic, an Ohio State 5v5 on a Sunday. So no field hockey practice. And I was going to go to the 5v5. I made a team of my high school teammates, and my high school coaches found out, and they were not very happy with that decision. But I ultimately decided to go to the lacrosse 5v5. And I am now able to look back on that and just realize how difficult I was being as a kid, and just realizing that you're going to have to make decisions. But I also have taken that as a learning experience and have worked with kids that are going to have to make very difficult decisions, and being able to see both sides of it, of from my shoes, but also from their shoes, because I've been in that situation.
Yeah, perspective is such a great tool to have. And, as we work with young people, or maybe as ADs are working with young coaches, um, it's not, say right, wrong, good or bad. It's just, okay, you made this decision. Now, these are the natural consequences of that decision. Very good stuff. Um, as you work with your own student athletes now, you mentioned your coaching, sounds like two of your favorite sports. Um, what are some things that you do? A big word now is intentional. Okay. What are some things that you do intentionally as a coach that would fall under that mentoring category?
I
And
think,
go
sorry,
ahead. I was just going to say, anything come to mind? I know I'm ambushing you here.
I think just letting them know that I am there for them, that I am also human, and that we are going to make mistakes. They're going to make a mistake. I'm going to make a mistake. And let's work through it together, and just really drilling into them that I am there for them. I think that's the biggest thing that my coaches did for me, is that I'm not just from 4 to 6 when we practice. That's not the only time you're allowed to talk with me. When we're in the hall, when we're on dorm, everything like that. And I think, again, just prioritizing relationships.
Very, very much so. Building those relationships. It's one of the most frequently mentioned tools, if you will, in the AD toolbox. Our guest today is Jackie Kisthardt. She's the assistant athletic director at Chatham Hall. That's in Virginia. We're going to take another break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but we're coming back with more. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thank you to our good friends at District One. That's WON. And you're going to feel like you've won when you go to district1.com and check out their custom uniform packages. They also have on time delivery, 20 business days or less. And get this, they have one at a time replacements. You'll never have to order a full set when you just need one or two replacement pieces. Go to district1.com. Click on the Team Gear button and get your free quote. That's district1.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. They're going to show you how to set up and sell your tickets online, how to scan the attendees that come to your games and collect your revenue. And every step of the way, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager that's providing you hands-on support. That's hands-on support. You'll find it all at hometownticketing.com. Simple and easy online ticketing. Welcome back, everyone. We're visiting with Jackie Kisthardt, Assistant AD at Chatham Hall in Virginia. Jackie, one of the things we try to do with the podcast is this idea of sharing best practices. So I'm going to put you on the spot again. What are some things that you do at Chatham Hall, or maybe there are things that you've seen at some of your other stops that you really think are best practices, things that when you become an athletic director, you're going to have these in your program? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, one of my favorites is just having some sort of leadership council or captain's council, whatever you call it. At Chatham Hall, we have CAC, which is Chatham Athletic Council, and that just allows your student athletes to get involved and be as much involved or as little involved as they want So specifically this past year, for our basketball games, our CAC introduced theme nights. So that was a lot of fun. Got more people than normal out to our basketball games. And just without student athletes, we don't have a department. So really just relying on our student athletes and getting their opinions, as they're the ones that are going to practice every day and have whatever they have to say about everything that's going on. And then second, we've touched on this earlier, but Gipper or any social media platform, it has saved my life. You're able to do as much with it that you want, and it's very customizable. And in this day and age, social media is taking over, and our athletic departments have to align with that.
You know, what are some of the things that you've done at Chatham Hall? We'll give Gipper another shout out because again, you're right. Social media is so important. What are some things you've done with Gipper that got, your biggest, return on investment? You spent 5 minutes, 10 minutes, creating the graphic and boom, it just blew up with likes or feedbacks. Anything come to mind?
Well, I have to think about that for a second. We did not have an Instagram until last summer when I first started. That was one thing I noticed in my interviews, and I said, we need to have an Instagram. And I think really the most well responded posts are the ones with the live action shots during a game. And whether it's an end of game score update or a game day post, it's just the kids being able to see these great photos that our photographers on campus take. And I really try and spread the wealth and make sure all kids are included. They just love to see that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't have, any skin in the game anymore. I'm not an AD. I've been out for 2 years now, but you're absolutely right. That's where the kids are. They're on social media. And, if they tweet out or Instagram or Snapchat, whatever the verb is for that, a photo with your school's logo or the school uniform in the background. And these kids, I don't know how these kids have thousands and thousands of followers, but they do. People are seeing your brand. So if you're not embracing it, you're really missing out. Jackie, we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wants to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more about how you do things at Chatham Hall or anything else, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Probably through my email.
And can you go and give that out?
Oh, yes. It's hard to spell, but we'll go for it. JKISTHARDT at Chatham. So CHATHAM Hall, HALL.org.
Okay. And we'll give that out again at the end of the show. And if you missed it, just rewind the podcast and Jackie will spell it out for you again. Again, our guest is Jackie Kisthardt from Chatham Hall in Virginia. We're going to take another break, but we're coming back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank our good friends at Snap Mobile. Go to snapraise.com. That's snapraise.com. And check out the entire suite of platforms designed to help you do your job better. Of course, there's Snap Raise, their fundraising platform. We used it with great success, and so can you. They even have a program where they're going to give you your money up front before you actually do your fundraiser. Nobody else offers that. But there's a lot more besides Snap Raise. You've got Snap Store, Snap Connect, Snap Sponsor, Snap Manage. You can find them all at snapraise.com. That's snapraise.com. We also want to say thank you to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo and see their tables and their boards in action. That's sidelineinteractive.com. Their products not only generate income for your department, They also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. SidelineInteractive.com. Welcome back, everyone. Jackie, one of the questions that I've been asking since we started the podcast has to do with this idea of coaching toughness. 100 years ago, when I was in high school, our coaches would say things like, "Come on, Jake, you got to be tough," or "Come on, Jake, you got to suck it up." And I think we kind of knew what they meant and we did it. In the many years since I graduated from high school, we figured out much better ways to coach our kids. But I still feel toughness is an important aspect of sports and of life. So here's my question for you. How can an athletic director or a coach help a Generation Z kid to develop toughness while also being aware of and sensitive to the very real social challenges that they have to go through that I never had to experience back in the 70s? Do you have any advice for us?
I think it's part of toughness is the idea of they don't want to fail. I think part of the idea of toughness is kids not wanting to fail and kids wanting to be good at everything. And that is what I try and preach is that you're never going to be good at something the first time you do it. At Chatham Hall, we are coaching a lot of athletes who have maybe never played a sport before. And that takes a different style of coaching and a different type of toughness that I'm having to teach. Um, and I think it's letting them fail and being there to get them back up and help them to learn from whatever mistake they made. Um, and I think the progress that you're able to see with somebody who has never played a sport before is huge. And that's, one of my favorite things. And a kid may not be tough at the beginning of the season, but practicing day in, day out, they're going to make that progress over the few months that we have.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about building those relationships. And I mentioned this on a previous interview. 100 years ago when I was in high school, we had relationships with our coaches, and I think they were probably okay, but they were just very narrow. Okay. It was coach and athlete and nothing beyond that. And it's not right, wrong, good or bad. It was just different, and now you have the opportunity. It's encouraged. And it's, I think, a best practice, talking about best practices, uh, that you have a broader relationship, maybe not a deeper relationship, but a broader relationship with your student athletes, and they can do the same with you. Very cool stuff. Okay. Jackie, this has been kind of fun finding out more about you and your program, but we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. Now, even though you're a younger AD, you certainly know your way around the world of athletics. And we're going to take our final break here from Athletic Surveys. When we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new AD on the very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. So let's take that final break. And when we come back, we're going to find out what Jackie Kisthardt, is going to put in her new athletic director toolbox. We want to thank Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the toolbox segment of the podcast. Athletic Surveys are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire program. Athletic directors usually only hear back from the complainers, the people that want to gripe about everything. And that's really only about 2% of your parent or student group. Athletic Surveys will connect you with that 2%, but they're also going to connect you with the 98% that love and support your program. And that's a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking to that frustrated parent or your principal or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that'll let you take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. That's athleticsurveys.com. Check them out today. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We have been visiting with Jackie Kisthardt, She is the Assistant Director of Athletics at Chatham Hall in Chatham, Virginia. She's a younger athletic director, but she knows her way around the world of athletics. And right now, I'm going to challenge her to send out a brand new AD, but I'm only going to let her put 3 things in the toolbox. So, Jackie, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
First one is that communication is key. I heard somewhere, I can't remember where, that successful athletic administrators are expert communicators. And then my second is to be open to learning and making mistakes. And then my last one, and I would say the most important one, is to take time for yourself. This can be a very time consuming job. And we do have a life outside of athletics, and always take time to do that.
Now, I love all of them, and the time for self, again, is another one that I think it's one of those that um, it's don't do as I do, do as I say. I'm putting you on the spot again. What are some things that you do during the season, during the school year, so you can take time for yourself? What's your go-to?
My go-to, and this is especially important being at a boarding school, is that I make sure I get off campus at least 1 or 2 nights a week. So whether that's going out to dinner with a friend or driving to Greensboro and going shopping, it is just taking time for yourself and removing yourself from your job.
Okay, good tool. Thanks for sharing. One more time, if one of our listeners wants to reach out and add you to their network, and listeners, I think you got a good resource here. What's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
With my email, which is JKISTHARDT at Chatham, CHATHAM Hall, HALL.org.
So that's J and then your last name, Kisthardt at chathamhall.org.
Correct.
All right. Well, Jackie, thanks again for sharing with us. Enjoy your summer and all the best with the coming fall. And let's definitely look to connect when you come down to Orlando in December for the national conference.
Thank you.
For our listeners, we do this just about every day, and we upload the Zoom recordings to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We really do appreciate you listening. Come back next week for another great interview, and just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.